Hello, everybody, and welcome back to a brand new episode here of NR2003, where we simulate the 2021 SRX series here on the channel. Today we are at ELDORA. This one coming a couple days later than it was supposed to. We just straight up didn't have time to push it into the other stuff we were recording. So as you guys can expect, I have JayCook along with myself for tonight's broadcast. Jay, we just came off of a dirt race last week at Knoxville. What are you expecting here at ELDORA? This is the final dirt race of the season. Do you think we're going to have a dirt guy like Tony Stewart win, or maybe the local guy who's on pole like Cody Swanson pick up the W?
I'm fully expecting Tony Stewart to win. I mean, the guy is so good on dirt. He owns his track, has ran a ton of laps at Eldora, so I'm 100% expecting Tony Stewart to win, and I think he's going to be the favorite tonight.
Last week, we had a bit of a, in my opinion, what I would consider a surprise winner. We saw Michael Waltrip pick up the victory. I still have yet to show you guys the points, but I will make sure to get that hopefully either this video or the next one. Is after this one, we're already halfway through this 6-race season, but getting ready to go green. It's going to be an exciting race, I think, here, and you can see up at the top it says 110 laps, so we're not actually running 110 laps. We're running 100 of them. And as you guys know, they run 2 heats and a main. So heat 1, 25 laps. It'll end when we hit lap 26. Heat 2 will end when we hit lap 51. And they will race it to lap 100. And the checkered will be 101 for the race to be official, unless we have overtime. And that's why we have given the opportunity, or have added more laps for that possibility here now as we're getting ready to go green with Cody Swanson, the local guy here, up on the pole position as a green flag is out, and we are underway here from SRX at ELDORA now as Michael Waltrip starts there in P2, and we had just mentioned he picked up the win last week. Very, very strong here in the SRX series so far. And then look up the inside, we got Marco Andretti as well in the mix. We're running the AI on 110% difficulty here from ELDORA tonight, so you're going to see hopefully some tremendous racing here, going right down to the wire now as they're going 3 wide here. They got the 17 of Willie T. Ribbs up the inside of both Labonte and Waltrip. So Waltrip kind of falling back here early on here as they go down this front stretch, completing the first couple laps already. Very quick laps here, only about 15 seconds to get around this track now as we look up towards the front. I mean, Jay, so far we're already seeing the local guy, Cody Swanson, run away with the lead. I mean, do you have any stats about this guy? I mean, it's another name that we really don't know or a lot of people I'm sure don't know. Maybe in the dirt racing world, of course, a lot of people I'm sure do know him. But do you have any stats about this guy to kind of give the viewers a bit of an idea?
He's an extremely successful USAC driver. He's won 5 championships in that series, and all of them from 2014, 2015, 2017, 2018, 2019. I was about to say straight, but then I realized I can't count, and there's a year missing in there. Anyways, he's won 5 championships in the USAC series. He's their most all-time winningest driver. So it's extremely successful dirt driver, and you can see why he's already leading this race tonight.
You see Paul Tracy in the 13 there, making it 3 wide with Tony Stewart and Bobby Labonte. In real life, I didn't get to see the ELDORA race, but I've been seeing the first couple races and been hearing a lot about Paul Tracy. I guess, Jay, you might have a little more knowledge. It seemed like you were keeping up with it a little bit more, but he seems to not be making any friends at all so far in the series this season. I don't believe. Oh, you are there.
Sorry, I'm dealing with something anyway. Say that again. I'm sorry.
I was saying, I noticed in real life that it seems like Paul Tracy hasn't been making any friends so far, and I said you probably have more info. It seems like you've been keeping up a little bit more with it.
Yeah, he's been typical Paul Tracy. He's kind of driving like an asshat on track, and he's certainly been doing that so far in the SRX series. They did a segment last night in the real life race about Paul Tracy, and everybody was kind of saying that he's the most aggressive driver in the series, and he's the one that everybody kind of expects to drive over his head a little bit and run into him and bump him out of the way and everything. So he's certainly done that so far as well. I don't know exactly what happened, but apparently there was a run-in between him and Bobby Labonte, and they got a little bit heated after the race. So he's been driving aggressive, and it's honestly not surprising. That's how Paul Tracy drives. He's always overly aggressive.
So far, right now, he's running a lot better than Bobby Labonte now as he has dropped down to the 12th and final position. Tony Stewart having a bit of a rough race. He won this race in real life, actually won the first two of the season, or last two, and did not win that first one. He won it in Knoxville and Eldora here now. As you see that 48 of Tony Kanaan, he was in the first race, didn't do the one at Knoxville. Jay, I mean, what do you expect from these IndyCar guys here on dirt? Honestly, in real life, I thought it was pretty impressive to see a guy like Elio Castronenevs be up there on the podium.
Yeah, I think he's done an exceptional job. Specifically, Castroneves has done a great job, I think, in both dirt races so far. And I believe Tony Kanaan did pretty well as well. So these guys have taken to dirt really well. They've taken to the series really well. They've run great so far. So I'm really impressed with what I'm seeing out of them. But I mean, as far as the real life series goes, Tony Stewart, at least on dirt, looks unbeatable, and I'm sure he's going to keep that points lead. Or he's got a pretty commanding points lead in the real life series.
So now we're seeing the local guy of Cody Swanson just continue to open up the gap here, almost up to a second and a half at this point now, as Michael Waltrip tries to chase him down. There you got a battle between Marco Andretti as well as the number 2 there of Ernie Francis Jr. So some good battling going on here now. Scott Speed in the race, by the way, a former NASCAR driver. He's done some rallycross. He's even driven a Formula One car. So a very diverse driver here in the field for this race. Now, Jay, I think we both know him from the NASCAR side. He never had the most successful NASCAR career, but we both know he's had a tremendous career on dirt, specifically in rallycross cars. So, I mean, we can expect to see him probably run well tonight.
Yeah, he wasn't necessarily successful in NASCAR, but he was successful in just about everything else he's ran. The guy is just certainly a great race car driver, and can run well in just about everything that he does. But you know, I personally I started watching NASCAR when I was probably 12 or 13 years old, and for some reason Scott Speed was one of the first guys that I liked, and I think you said the same thing as well. He
Yep.
was someone that you kind of pulled for. So he never really had that success, but he was still somebody that I pulled for.
He was a unique personality, and of course, he was a part of the Red Bull program there when they were in NASCAR running with 2 cars. He drove that silver 82 Red Bull car, and I was a big fan of his now, as we already have just 6 laps, coming to 5 laps to go in this very first heat. As I saw the number 98 there actually scraped that wall just a little bit of Marco Andretti. So now with 5 laps to go, looking like Michael Waltrip's actually starting to close the gap here to Swanson. Maybe Swanson used up his tires a little bit too much early on here, but I don't think there's going to be enough time in the closing laps of Heat 1 for Waltrip to even get there now, as you got Scott Speed up now to P3. So a good run there as the 17 of Willie T. Ribbs tries to hold off Tony Stewart, who's moving his way throughout the field. We've got a lot of guys moving their way forwards here in this race now, so it's going to be interesting, I think, in Heat 2, and specifically, of course, the 50-lap main event, to see what happens now as it come through, crossing the line. Just 2 laps to go here in Heat 1 for Cody Swanson, making a statement, but Waltrip continues to close that gap. It is now less than a second between the 2 drivers, but Speed is also closing. I think he's probably the fastest car on the track. We look, Tony Stewart has the fastest lap, Speed has the second fastest lap. White flag in the air for the very first heat here as they come through now into turns 3. It's going to be Cody Swanson, the local guy, out of turns 4 to win the first heat here in Eldora. Michael Waltrip barely holds off Scott Speed, as Stewart as well was able to hold off Willie T. Ribbs. So, I mean, Jay, we're seeing specifically Scott Speed and Tony Stewart, I think, as the main guys working their way forwards, but I'm also starting to think here that Swanson might have used up his tires a little bit too early, as he was being run down by pretty much everybody in the top 4 or 5.
Yeah, it's highly possible he was using those tires up a bit. He got really aggressive there at the start of the race and went really quick and got a big gap built up. And now that this first first heat is over with, he's going to be put back with everybody else again. So if he did use up his tires, he's going to be put at a major disadvantage that he didn't even get to take advantage of that gap that he made up because, well, obviously he gets reset here with the caution. So hopefully he didn't use those tires up and genuinely did just take off there at the beginning and took time for everybody else to learn the track. But I still think that he's going to wind up leading the second heat as well.
So now with Heat 1 being complete, we are going to go to a very quick break here and get ready to go green for the second heat now, as these guys are not going to be coming to the pit lane, so no positions will get shaken up. So we'll be back getting ready for the green flag of Heat 2. Welcome back here from the SRX series, getting ready to go green for the second heat. It's going to be 5 less laps here in Heat 2. It will be closing when we hit lap 51, and then we're going to race it to lap 101 to decide a winner now. So we got the local guy of Cody Swanson getting ready to lead the field back to the green flag. Now, Jay, we saw those guys closing in here. Now, of course, everybody's bunched up. Could you see potentially a guy you think like Scott Speed or Tony Stewart being able to get the lead here in Heat 2, or do you think Swanson's going to be able to hold them off just by having the track position?
I certainly expected Tony Stewart to go for it. I mean, the guy was extremely fast there in the first heat, so I expect him to continue that and probably try and challenge for the lead here, if not grab the lead from Cody Swanson.
So far, I mean, overall, a pretty calm race now, as we've seen one incident in both races we've done so far, so I mean, it's kind of expected at some point, but like we said, a very calm first heat. Now, as you see some pressure from Scott Speed up the inside of the 15 of Michael Waltrip. Waltrip also tagged the wall just a little bit right there, and that could allow Speed to do that right there out of turns 2. He's going to get clear, and now Tony Stewart as well is going to follow through into P3, and even Willie T. Ribbs is going to try and get up in the mix now, as you see Paul Tracy and Kanan going at it with Castro Neneves and Andretti, and then further back you got Labonte, the 9 of Bill Elliott, and the 2 of Ernie Francis Jr. But now look at Stewart. He is on a charge up the inside of the 41, and Tony Stewart goes into second place, and he's quickly closing that gap on the number 63 here. I mean, Jay, of course, Tony, I mean, owns this track. He knows this track in and out, everything about it, I'm sure. So, I mean, it's no surprise to see him now closing in for the lead.
No surprise at all. The guy's so good on dirt, and like you mentioned, he owns this track as well. I'm sure he's ran so many laps of this track, and you know he's always been good at Eldora, always been good on the dirt, and so I fully expect him to be going after the lead here. And he may not make Cody Swanson may not make much of a challenge here for Tony Stewart. I think Tony may get around him pretty easily.
There he goes, already clear. That's a very easy pass for Tony now as Swanson drops down to second place. Even Willie T. Ribbs has made a pass there on the 41 of Scott Speed, so he goes back up to P3 as Speed is going to try and keep on fighting there. But Stewart already opening up a nice gap between him and second place. So single file here and out, but then you got the 15 of Waltrip side by side with Ribbs. Positions up here in the top 5 are going all over the place very, very quickly now. As I think I heard in real life, Jay, that this was quite the crash fest, if I'm not mistaken. There was some tempers going on. I don't know. Did you actually watch the race?
I watched the 2 heats. I did not see any of the features, so I genuinely have no idea if anything happened in the feature race. But yes, in the heats, there was quite a big crash. I think 5 cars got involved. It was Michael Waltrip, Castro Neves, I think, Willie T. Actually, I can't even remember who all was in it, but I know that it was quite a lot of them. And Michael Waltrip's car got quite a bit of damage. So did Cody Swanson. So yeah, there was a big wreck in the heat races. In one of the heat races, I'm not sure about the feature race though.
And now you're seeing Swanson under attack here with 10 laps remaining, already in this second heat. And now he's going to go all the way down into 4th place as Waltrip as well is going to get by. So there goes the 41 of Speed to second place. Might be the only contender at this point for Tony Stewart. We're going to see how that gap looks here in a couple laps time. But now that he's under pressure from Waltrip, it's going to get very hard to close in on that 14, now just barely below a second between Stewart and Scott Speed here. As you got the number 9 of Bill Elliott slowly trying to work his way forwards as he's right behind that 13 of Paul Tracy. Castro Neneves right now having a solid run there in P7 behind Marco Andretti and Tony Kanaan here. But look at the 63 continuing to just fade down the order. So definitely used up their tires. I mean, is probably the only thing that we could kind of pinpoint there on that 63. Now, I mean, Jay, I mean, what do you do in this position? I mean, these guys, they can't really pit, I don't think, at the end of this second heat. So, do you think he's pretty much screwed himself for the rest of this race?
Yeah, I think so. If that's what happened to him, if he overran his tires, then yeah, he's gonna be out of position for the rest of this race. There's no tire changing, as there's a little bit of contact between Marco Andretti and Elio Castroneves. Yeah, there's no tire changing here at all. So you have to use the tires in both heat races and in the feature race. So if he's overran his tires, he's certainly going to be in a bad position for the rest of this race.
Not looking good for him, but we'll have to wait and see what happens here in the closing laps. As it looks like he's going to try and put the fight back to Castro Neneves here with just a few laps to go in this second heat. So we got the 41 of Speed, the 17 of Ribbs, Waltrip in the 15 are all under a blanket right there now, as the gap is 1.3 seconds between Scott Speed and Tony Stewart. We're starting to see some guys get sideways out of these corners that might be able to lead to some incidents, maybe especially in this 50-lap main, but Stewart now with 2 laps to go, continuing to drive away over that 41 car. So Stewart putting on a clinic here, just like Swanson did in that first heat. So I mean, that could be a sign of things to come. Maybe Tony's going to fall off in that final A main, as the white flag in heat 2 is out, and Tony Stewart continues to open up that gap here now. Scott Speed did gain a little bit right there, but it's going to be interesting to see if he can gain any more in that A main now. Stewart, sure enough, out of turns 4 is going to come through to win the second heat, already halfway through this race now, as Ernie Francis Jr. is going to be at the very back there, as the 18 of Labonte is able to get out in front of him. So caution is out. There's his finishing order on your screen, and what we're going to do once again is go for a quick break and bring you guys to the start of the A main here for 50 or so laps, and the race will be official when we hit lap 101, unless we have overtime, of course. So we'll be right back from a quick break. Back from Eldora, getting ready to go green for the final stretch here in the main. It's supposed to be 50 laps. It's going to be about 45 laps here of racing to go once they take the green flag. Jay, I mean, going into this final stretch here, who do you think is going to get it? Tony Stewart's, of course, looking strong. Scott Speed seems to have some good speed, quote unquote. Get it? Or a nice pun, I should say. But who do you think is going to come out on top here? Maybe someone else than these two, even.
I think Stewart might be the favorite, but I think any one of these top 3 right here, Tony Stewart, Scott Speed, or Michael Waltrip, could win the race. We've seen all 3 of them be strong so far, and Scott is going to waste no time going right at Tony here.
And sure enough, yeah, out of turns 4, he's going to take a look to the inside right there. It kind of looked like he really checked up, couldn't quite make anything happen right there. As you see, though, look at the 63. He's making a charge back forward. He's back up into 4th place there. Swanson trying to rebound there from that awful second heat. Scott Speed, though, up the inside of Tony Stewart, and actually is going to be side by side in through turns 1 and turns 2. This is an opportunity for maybe even Michael Waltrip to steal a position. But Speed, he's going to take the lead in turn 3, and Stewart now falls back. It's like almost like the heat winners have been cursed so far, because the 63, he dropped off a ton in that second heat. Now Stewart, who wins heat 2, he's already dropped down to 3rd and under pressure to lose 3rd to that 63 car of Cody Swanson. But now Michael Waltrip's up in the mix, almost some contact right there between him and Scott Speed. I think, Jay, so far, Michael Waltrip in our NR2003 series has been the most impressive. Of course, he won last episode, and now here he is running P2 to Scott Speed and even beating Tony Stewart.
Yeah, he's certainly been the most impressive, I think, for our NR version of this series. He's done a great job so far. Came out of nowhere and won that race last week, and I was not expecting that at all.
It was between him and Paul Tracy throughout the majority of that race, but it was a tremendous race there between those two. Now, as Waltrip's continuing to hang here with that 41 of Speed, and then you got the 63 of Swanson, who's worked his way back up into 3rd. So now, Jay, I mean, does this bring in a potential idea that maybe he decided to just straight up save tires in heat 2 to be ready for this final heat?
And that is a possibility. I'm not too sure at this point what's going on with the tires. I mean, you know, you have all these different options you can do to make him last at the end of the race, and it's possible that he was saving him there. He already had a win in heat 1. Probably felt like he could be decently competitive and easy to get back through these guys if he did save his tires. So maybe that's what happened, or maybe just something there with that restart. He got kind of caught off guard and then just kind of never really got into a good rhythm for the entire heat. I'm not too sure what's happened, but we saw him fall off in heat 2 after winning heat 1. Well, Tony Stewart won heat 2, and now in the feature he's fallen way off as well. So something about it, winning these features means in the next restart you're going to not be very good.
Very close right there between Speed and Waltrip. But now I have a quick question for you, Jay. Is, I mean, we've had 3 races complete in real life right now, or to date. So do you think that there's enough hype and success built around this series so far to where you think they'll continue for multiple years to come and maybe expand and continue on with a larger roster? Do you think it's going to maybe stay the same or not even continue at all?
I think it'll certainly continue. Obviously they haven't released the numbers on viewership yet for this weekend, but I think it was another big success. There was a lot of people at the racetrack at Eldora. And after they probably got their same viewership of around a million viewers. So I think the racing product has been great so far. They've done great things with the broadcast. They've done some really cool things like interviewing Tony Stewart last night in the middle of the race. They've done some really fun stuff like the driver features. They've had some cool drivers in the series. So I certainly think it will continue. I think CBS wants it to continue. I think that obviously all the owners of SRX, Ray Evernham, Tony Stewart, that one executive from CBS, I think they all want it to continue as well, and it's been successful and it's been fun. So I enjoy the series, and I truly do hope they bring it back and in some kind of expanded form next year as well.
I can see both an expanded roster, maybe even up to like 20 cars potentially, and definitely can see more races on the schedule becoming a thing for sure now. As we're seeing Paul Tracy, by the way, work his way up into the mix. The 63 of Swanson has gotten back up into second place. Is he closing in on speed? That's the big question. Last time around, he actually lost ground to Scott Speed, and Tracy is now starting to put some pressure. Paul Tracy hasn't been in the mix all race, and now with a little bit over 25 laps to go, he is finding himself in the picture. So as the 63 crosses the line again, he loses about a half a tenth right there, and now you're seeing Tracy go back up the inside, and now look who's coming back into the mix. We got Tony Stewart. I mean, Jay, these positions are going all over the place. People's cars are changing drastically, it seems like. I mean, is that, do you think, an effect of just the cars being equal, or what do you think's causing this potentially to be happening?
I'm honestly unsure. The only thing I can think of is maybe a little bit of tire saving strategy going on. That's the only thing I can kind of think of as to why these guys will be falling off and then able to come back like they are. So it could be something to do with the equal cars. It also could just be something to do with not being in a good rhythm and taking a moment to find your rhythm, which I would not expect that from Tony Stewart with how good he is at Eldora and how much experience he has here. So maybe there was some tire saving going on now that we're halfway through this feature. Maybe he feels like he can finally start going again and put some pressure back on these guys in front of him and go back for the lead.
Not a lot of time though for these guys. I mean, Tracy though in second place now actually cut the gap to below a second last time around, and as it came through that time, the gap actually didn't change at all. And then you got the 63 going back for it. These four cars right here, second through fifth place, just scrapping it out, and all of a sudden Michael Waltrip goes from like fifth to third here in just a matter of seconds. And as they cross the line again, the 41 of Speed is going to actually open up that gap. So this is exactly what Scott Speed wants to see right here. There's a lot of battling going on behind him now as Waltrip's up to second. Stewart's going to come back through and try and move up into that third position there as they go down into turns one. But I mean, Jay, what do you make of the racing so far here in Eldora? I think especially up front, in the back has been kind of lackluster, but I think up front it's actually been a really strong race so far.
It's been actually a lot better than I was expecting. I think this is the best one we've had so far this season, where we've had some guys kind of fall off and some guys come forward, and those guys who have fallen off have also come forward as well. So now that we see Tony Stewart in second place, I expect him to still go on a tear here and maybe catch Scott Speed. Second and a half is not a lot of time for Tony Stewart to gain.
He's got 20 laps to close in. 1.5 seconds, so it's going to be interesting to see if he can do it. I think that's enough time at a track like Eldora to where he could pull that off, but he's got to make sure he doesn't get caught up in battles against guys like the 63 of Swanson or the 13 of Paul Tracy. And that time around, the gap didn't change. It was 1.53 the last time around. This time around, it stays at 1.53 seconds. These laps, of course, very quick, only 15-second laps, so they run out of time very, very quick here in Eldora. And Tony literally gained like a hundredth of a second right there. Went from 1.53 to 1.52. So, I mean, now, Jay, you only gain a hundredth of a second in one lap. Do you change up the line? What do you do here and at this point now? I mean, realizing this time around, he actually loses 300ths of a second. So, I mean, changing your line might be the only thing you can try to do at this point, but of course that could risk losing more time.
Yeah, I don't know if you try and change your line, specifically because here at Eldora, the outside is so strong. So I don't really think you'll gain any time at all running the inside line. So I think maybe he can try driving the corners a little bit differently, but I don't know. He might have just used up his car a little bit too much coming back through all those guys. You know, they were all racing hard there for second through fifth. So he probably had to push pretty hard to get through that. And maybe he just, once he found himself back in second place, he didn't have any more to go after the leader.
Look who's gotten up into the mix now. Tony Kanaan has climbed his way up into the fourth position. We haven't seen him at all throughout this race, so I'm wondering if he really saved his tires. I mean, he was 2.26 seconds behind last time. Now he's actually 2.37. But now Swanson back into second place. And I feel like if just second place could get comfortable and not be under attack from third place constantly, they could have a chance to run down Scott and Speed, but they continuously are putting each other under pressure and not allowing them to run away. And now, I mean, you're going to see Stewart again move back up into second place here. So Scott Speed in position to win this race with just over 10 laps to go. As Stewart has a nice gap right there, but he has now got almost 2 seconds to make up. And at this point, Jay, with just over 10 laps to go, I think if nothing goes wrong here for Scott Speed, we can pretty much consider him in prime position to hold on for the win.
Yeah, I would say at this point it looks like it's going to be all Scott Speed as long as there's not a caution or as long as he doesn't make some kind of mistake. I don't think there's any chance that Stewart or well, actually Swanson has fallen off back down to 5th place. So I don't think there's any chance that Stewart or Kanan or Michael Waltrip or anybody catches Scott Speed at this point.
4/10 of a second. Stewart just closed. It's not fully over, but if he's going to have to pretty much do that just about every single lap if he wants to have a chance. But now Kanan's closing, so he's going to be under some pressure again very, very soon. It went from 1.4 to 1.44, so he gained 300ths of a second right there. Now, I mean, honestly, he's just going to have to hope that Scott Speed makes some mistakes, but would be very uncharacteristic for Speed to make those mistakes, especially on a dirt track and when you have such a large lead. Of course, Tony right there actually, though, cut it to below a second. So he is setting a blistering lap time here. As you see Kanan in the 15 of Waltrip, they're going at it, and with 8 laps to go, Jay, all of a sudden I think we might be proven wrong here because Stewart is coming up into the mix pretty quick.
I honestly think that every single thing that I say about this series turns into the exact opposite as soon as I say it. I've said a couple times tonight that I think Tony can catch him. He doesn't catch him. As soon as I say that, okay, he can no longer catch him, he starts to catch him. So I at this point, I think they're just listening to me, and as soon as I say something, they're doing the exact opposite.
Just over another 10th right there. And now when you see the look at the 41 there, Stewart is starting to creep into the same frame. So right here, it's 5 laps to go. This is the big one. What is it going to be? 8/10 of a second to now just below 8/10. So if Stewart's gaining like that, he does not have enough time. But I mean, one mistake, one slip up here from Scott Speed, it could change everything. Out of turns for 4 laps to go, and it's actually a 10th he pulls away from Tony Stewart that time. So now looking very, very tough if Tony Stewart wants to get up into the mix here. Some good racing going on for 3rd, 4th, and 5th place, of course, but 3 laps to go. Scott Speed now seems to be opening up the gap. He actually keeps it the same there over Tony now, so looks like it's going to stay about the same. But Jay, overall, coming up on the last few laps, is a very clean race, but at the same time, a great race overall, and it looks like the guy that comes in out of nowhere, his first race in the series, is going to win here with 2 to go.
It was a very clean race, but it was a race filled with lots of passing and lots of great racing. I think this was certainly the best race we've had so far. And Scott Speed came out here and put on an absolute masterclass in this feature race.
White flag in the air. Stewart closes more, but it's not going to be enough. Out of turns 2, down the spag. Straight away, we get the caution command, and now the race will be official at the line. And Scott Speed, out of turns 4, is going to win here in the SRX series at ELDORA. Stewart closed that gap down just over 6/10 of a second by the final lap. Not enough, as Tony Kanaan has a great A-main and works himself up into P3. Willie T. Ribbs there in 4th, and rounding out the top 5, you have Michael Waltrip. So the local guy there, Swanson, who won the first heat, ends up P6. A good performance overall for him here from the SRX series. I mean, Jay, we had already talked about it. I think it was a good race here. I honestly don't know what track we're going to next, but I know this is the end of the dirt track racing here. So what did you make of the kind of the dirt swing here in the SRX series? Did you think it was more entertaining than the first pavement race they had?
I certainly do. Yes, I think that the first pavement race wasn't necessarily boring, but it was certainly less entertaining than these last 2 dirt races were. So I think it's a little bit disappointing that we're already done with the dirt. I hopefully, if they redo this series next year, hopefully maybe they'll go to 1 or 2 more dirt tracks because they definitely put on a great show at them. But I still am excited for the second half of the season. I think we're 3 races in, so we got 3 to go now, and I think we're going to be building up for a great last 3 races.
And as always, of course, if you guys enjoyed this episode and other ones on the channel, you know what to do. So next, by the way, we're actually going to Lucas Oil Raceway. Then we go to Slinger. I saw that racetrack before. It's very short, very like high banking, a very unique track. So that's going to be an interesting one to watch. And then they go to the Nashville short track. So 3 races already remain. I'll try my best to get the points up in the end of this episode. We do have to get this one out pretty quick. It'll be out tomorrow for sure, maybe even tonight. I'm not sure yet. But like I said, if you guys enjoyed, you know what to do. We'd like to thank you all for taking the time in your day to watch, and we will see you guys in the next one. Have a great night, everybody.